Patriots, their second-round pick is in, and they made another trade with the Chiefs, this time moving up from 54 to 50 for Baylor wide receiver Tyquan Thornton. He ran a 4.28 40 at the Combine. 6'2", had 62 receptions for 950 yards last season. He was projected to go, well, some say the third or fourth, maybe the fifth round.
They know.
Anyways, here's Thornton on being drafted by New England.
Getting the phone call from New England Patriots, I mean, it was a dream come true, you know. Just seeing my family, you know, smile and everybody cheering, you know, I mean, my heart was racing. You know, it was a feeling that I never felt before. Willing to learn the game and always coming in and day out to get better and put in work. So that's what I bring to the New England Patriots. Just bring a lot of excitement. I'm ready to, you know, learn and work with the coaches and the players too as well.
All right, here's a look at the first two Patriots picks so far. You got offensive lineman Cole Strange at 29, and now wide receiver Tyquan Thornton, and still waiting on picks 85 and 94. All right, welcome to Town Prince Hour BST Fridays. Tom Giles, Burt Breer, Tommy Curran, Phil Parrott. I'll start with you. How do you feel about Tyquan Thornton being the Patriots' first selection here on day two?
Well, it's pretty clear what the Patriots are trying to do here, right? They know they need speed at the receiver position. They know that they have to threaten defenses down the field more than they did last year. I've talked to coaches all offseason, Tom, really, that will tell you straight up, these are coaches that coached against and game planned for the Patriots offense last year. We didn't fear their receivers. They need somebody who can go out and create an explosive pass for Mac Jones. There were just so many things that the Patriots couldn't do through the air that made it hard for them really and impressive for them to do what they were able to do on the ground. So you get a guy with 4.28 speed, Tom, that should help soften up defenses. It just does, and Giles referenced this already, it feels like a bit of a reach.
Yeah, and my initial reaction is immediately to say, okay, well, defense was the reason you got run off the field against the Buffalo Bills in two meetings. And so far, through the first two picks, you've done nothing to address that. Secondarily, you know, you're making a reach pick. I watched Albert sit there on his phone and Phil on his phone, and I've been on my phone trying to figure out exactly how big a reach it was. And unanimously, the people who've communicated with both of you guys have said reach. Big reach? Yeah, real big reach. So you hate to say first round, it's like, okay, what did you go to get a guard for? And they, you know, we pan that, and then they get a wide receiver. Most people like it. Oh, what'd you get the wrong one for?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is, like, this guy could wind up being a good player, and I think we've said that over and over again the last 2 days, right? Like, Cole Strange could wind up being Logan Mankins for all we know. This guy might be Tyreek Hill. That's not what we're not saying that they can't do that.
Right.
What we are saying is part of the draft is picking guys where the league sees them. And when you hear back from other teams around the league that Cole Strange probably should have gone in the third round, maybe a late second rounder, and you're spending your first round pick on him, and then you hear Tyquan Thornton, like I talked to somebody at night, like an area scout, who said, I had a fifth round grade on him. I talked to a couple people who had fourth round grades on him. You took him in the second round.
Top 50 player.
And so, like you're building up all of this extra capital on the back end of the draft when it feels like that's where you should be taking some of these guys.
But why are they trading up to do that, I wonder? I mean, what's the hurry? Are they just trying to burn fifth-round picks, which you've noted in the past they don't like fifth-round picks?
The fifth round is a round that they have tried to avoid drafting it seems at least, on the outside looking in over the years, and so they move up 4 spots just by burning that fifth. There was a run on receivers, though, right after they selected. So George Pickens, Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, and Sky Moore from Western Michigan all went in succession, Tom, just a few picks later. So maybe they were anticipating a run on receivers based on where the board was in terms of the teams selecting. And they said, we're not sure. Maybe one of these teams loves our guy. Let's make sure we go get our guy.
And those three guys you just mentioned were higher up on just about, you know, most people's, if not everybody's.
People had heard.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it, Curran. So they were there. Would you rather have any of those guys over Thornton? Like, where would you have ranked it? Because those are wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, just listen, again, this is based on what we're hearing, right? I'm not going to pretend that I'm breaking down the all-22 of Sky Moore and the Western Michigan tape. But
go Broncos.
You know, to text an executive tonight who I know thought Cole Strange last night was overdrafted, and for him to shoot a text back and say probably a bigger reach. That's how he described Tyquan Thornton's selection tonight. That makes me think I probably wouldn't want all three of those guys we just mentioned over Tyquan Thornton.
Yeah, and I think, like, you look at people at this stage of the draft, you're going to be able to poke holes in any of them. George Pickens has the ability to be a number one receiver. And we've seen the Patriots take.
He went a couple picks later.
He went a couple picks later. And this is a guy who, I mean, legitimately, if he hadn't torn his ACL and didn't have the character issue, the guy might have been a top 10 pick in the draft. The Patriots had typically in the past have taken their risks in the second round. That's where they found Rob Gronkowski. Some of them have been like whiffs, like
Jordan Richards, Tavon
Yeah,
Wilson.
I mean, but they've taken their risks in the second round. And I just like they're reaching here like an area where maybe they would typically take that risk, especially when you've built up some capital on the back end. I would just rather be reaching for something. I'd rather be reaching for a risk than reaching for something that no one is actually looking for.
Yeah, like we said, there was no one in line at the Cole Strange store last night. I don't think there were a lot of people in line at the Tyquan Thornton store. And I think some people out there would say, well, Patriots don't have to be beholden to what the rest of the league thinks.
Sure.
And that's fair, but to the point of value, if you perceive the rest of the league doesn't give a crap about your guy, and the run on wide receivers that Phil made is a good point, but if you perceive that the guy that you like is not going to be drafted anywhere else, then you can parachute out and add picks unless you don't want the extra picks. But to me, we've heard value, value, value. We can't move the goalposts and say, well, just take who you want when you want.
I think
doesn't matter.
The simple way to put it, and this is the easiest way to put it, is if Tyquan Thornton, let's say conservatively, is a fourth rounder, you have a second rounder and a fourth rounder, and you take him in the second round, you're essentially taking your second rounder and turning into a fourth rounder because that's the other pick now. Because if you had gotten Tyquan Thornton with the fourth rounder, now you have the two. And that's how you play the board. You know, like that's how you play the game. And it makes me wonder, and we talked about this off the air, and I think it's at least worth addressing. A big part of the draft is your connections in the league and how many people that you've got on speed dial and how you're able to ascertain the way the rest of the league looks at players. They've lost a lot of people over the last 5 years in scouting. It makes you wonder if they're not doing a good enough job reading the way the rest of the league sees these players.
Well, but there's,
yeah, Tom.
I was just going to say there's more information out there than ever before as far as draft analytics go.
It's funny, Phil said the same thing. He goes, you know, if you don't know where guys stack up or you're unsure of it or you wonder what the general populace feels, just look at any of the other mock drafts. That's how we figure out where guys are stacked. Like Phil said, you don't break down Western Michigan film, all 22.
Yeah, and it's not just anybody's, right? And Bill Belichick has acknowledged this in the past. They will look at mock drafts, but they pick certain ones. The people that they know are tapped in. They're probably looking at the Albert Breer mock draft. Hopefully they're visiting NBCSportsBoston.com. You know, I don't know how and where exactly they're going for that information, but it does, Giles, to your point, it feels like there's more of it out there than ever before.
2022 draft coverage is presented by John Sewer and Drain Cleaning.